Welcome in, everyone, to the Thursday Night End Zone show presented by the Real Estate Collective. I'm Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Week one of the playoffs, almost in the books here on a Thursday night. Round one of the playoffs, I guess I should say, as there were quite a few games across the Upper Cumberland tonight in round one of the playoffs, and a lot of Upper Cumberland teams moving on to that second round of the playoffs. We welcome you in once again. The Thursday Night End Zone show presented by the Real Estate Collective. Normally in round one, there's a lot of blowouts, and there were a lot of blowouts tonight, Noah.
There were. Round one is okay. This is I think you're going to have a good one tomorrow. White County Hickson was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I love football. It's the worst week of football. Let's just be honest about it. This and fall break.
It's not a very competitive one.
It's not. And the reality is probably too many teams make the playoffs in this state in 6 classes to have 4 teams out of every region, particularly with the imbalance of regions. There are teams that did not play tonight from the Upper Cumberland that could have blown out other teams that were in the playoffs tonight from other areas. And there's no perfect way for it. I'm not sitting here complaining about the system. I just mean the end result is round one leads to a lot of blowouts. Now, the good news is a lot of those were blowouts in favor of Upper Cumberland teams. So we like that. Unfortunately, a couple went the other way. But, not a whole lot of intrigue. Certainly no stunners tonight. The games that I think we thought could be remotely competitive were remotely competitive, and the games we thought would be just stompings were stompings this evening, Jacob.
Well, let's go through those scores that happened tonight. Of course, 3 games coming up tomorrow as well. We'll talk about those a little bit tonight. Stone Memorial beats Loudon tonight 44-21. Stone Memorial into round 2 of the playoffs. Upperman beating Signal Mountain 50-6. Gordonsville, they punched their ticket to the second round of the 2A playoffs. They beat York Institute tonight 35-7. White County, a big win. The 3 seed going on the road to Hickson. They win that game 20-14. Oakland takes down Cookeville tonight 42-10. Clay County over Copper Basin 40-6. And Jackson County's season comes to a close in the first round on the road at Marion County 49-13. Kept it fairly close at halftime, 28-14 or 28-13, gets away from them in the second half, that being the Jackson County Blue Devils. Where do you want to start?
I think macro view first off. I think we talked a lot about it tonight, obviously, because of the game we did, but the eastern half of the 4A bracket is unfreaking believable. I mean, listen, you got Pearl Cone and Springfield and then a gigantic dropout out west. The eastern half, and listen, it's going to be very chalky tomorrow. Greenville and Anderson County and Alcoa are going to roll Elizabethton as well. And then, oh my goodness, dude. I mean, there are maybe 6 teams that could make Chattanooga. Not forget the third round that could make the state championship game. And so, Stone had a good performance tonight, but Upperman rolling the way they did, that wasn't a surprise. This 4A bracket, now we got, I announced it. I mean, Alcoa is going to win tomorrow. We know what the game of the week is next week. But this bracket is as loaded of one half. You look elsewhere, the game you had tonight. I mean, Oakland is such a huge favorite on the east half of the 6A bracket. 5A, there's a couple of teams. 2A, there's a couple of teams. 1A, there's, not that many teams that are in the discussion to make the state championship game. 4A is not for the faint of heart this year. It's going to be an unbelievable coming 3 weeks in that classification.
You just look at a couple of these matchups. Obviously, Stone Memorial into that second round. They're most likely going to be going to Anderson County coming up next week. That's going to be a heck of a football game. You mentioned White County has already punched their ticket. They'll be going to Greenville coming up next week. And then, obviously, Upperman and Alcoa most likely playing next week in Baxter. 3 games right there that are just going to be phenomenal football games. And then we'll see if Macon County is able to move into the second round. If they do, they might be going to Elizabethton, which would be a heck of a football game as well. So Pearl Cone did win tonight. They're into the second round. Springfield did as well. So both those 1 seeds taking care of business and moving on into the second round. So
and these pods,
you're right.
The pod system, I think right now they got to play tomorrow. I think I'd rather be Macon County. I mean, that is, and they were the 4 seed coming out of this region. I mean, I don't like the new system at all. I think this is going to be a 2 and done thing. I think it was ill conceived. And I think next week having teams travel 6 hours, which is going to happen, is just crazy. But at least for next week, if Macon County's able to win the game, I think they'd have the most favorable matchup in the second round as the 4 seed. And this bracket is freaking unbelievable. It is. Whoever makes Chattanooga is going to have earned it. And then, and the unfortunate thing is they're going to have a team on the other side that, yes, whether it's Pearl-Cohn or Springfield, I'd be stunned if it's not one of those two very good teams that are not going to have to go through the wars that these teams are about to have to go to get there out of the eastern half of the 4A bracket.
Pearl-Cohn put up 70 tonight. They beat Battle Creek 70-7. Springfield a little bit closer. They played Creekwood, won that game 35-7. So fairly close-ish game in terms of a first-round game, I guess, for Springfield on that side. So,
and I'd give Pearl a heavy nod out there.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and don't look at Pearl-Cohn's record. They played Division II teams for the first 4 games of the year, and Oakland. They played a really, really good schedule to open up the season. So Region 4, 4A looking really, really good right now. 3 of the 4 teams have punched their ticket to the second round, and Red Bank will play Macon County coming up tomorrow at 6 o'clock Central Time. We'll have broadcast coverage of that right here on the main UCR Facebook page and YouTube channel. Myself, Tim Case, and Stephen Lancaster will be on the call of that one coming up tomorrow night. So looking forward to that one. But yeah, this 4A bracket, especially on the eastern half, is just tremendous. And then we get into those second round games. It's going to be all kinds of fun coming up next week. And then you said it too, there's going to be some road trips. White County's going to be going to Greenville. Stowe Memorial's going to Anderson County. That's one of the closer ones. And then Macon County, if they're able to win,
oh my goodness,
could possibly be going to Elizabethton if they win, which obviously that's not a given either. So we'll have to wait and see what the second round looks like next week.
Yeah, I guess we can just start with the Upperman game and then kind of work our way through this, just because I wanted to say this. Elijah Barlow left with apparently a pretty bad injury. So obviously, I think everybody in agreement praying that he's okay. You know, I will not speculate. Obviously, we weren't there. We don't know. All I do know, and I will say this for a fact, that I know it wasn't a head injury, and that is very good. It's not good, but it's obviously you don't want anything to do with that when a situation like that happens. So obviously I hope that he is okay. He's a real promising young player. And tonight, I think you saw some of the brilliance of Adam Kane, recognizing the moment, recognizing the situation, and putting Carmine Phillips out front and center so that when Alcoa turns on the tape, they see number 6 a whole lot and realize, oh, snap, there's something else they got to prepare for, because I think there is a misnomer, and you can testify to this a little bit too, Jacob, that Upperman is a one-man show. And then they have Carmine Phillips go out there and score 5 touchdowns, and he could do that nearly every week. He is an electric player, a 4-year starter for this team, one of the only 4-year starters on the entire team. That is the interesting thing. We didn't talk much about this game yesterday because we knew it was going to be a blowout. It was 50-6. I know Signal got the touchdown early, and it was like, oh, and then immediately it was over. Everyone understands how good Bronson Chaffin is, Mr. Football semifinalist. I think you saw some of the experience, though, in that coaching staff to highlight something else and put it front and center ahead of a huge, huge game next week at home for the Bees.
The Bees just ran all over Signal Mountain tonight. 329 yards rushing, averaging 13.5 yards a carry. You mentioned Carmine Phillips. Only 14 carries. He had 183 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. He was averaging 13 yards a carry. Bronson Chaffin only carried it 4 times, 7 for 14 through the air for 140 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown tonight. One of the first times in a while. Hasn't done that, but obviously completing just 7 passes for 140 yards. Elijah Fitz, 3 catches for 47. Colton Johnson, 2 catches for 48. So a dominant performance tonight for the Bees with 18 first downs and a total offense of 469 yards, and able to hold Signal Mountain to just 100 yards of offense.
And we knew Signal Mountain was not going to be murderer's row, but I do think it's notable against a wing T offense down a very critical defensive lineman, just 2.4 yards per carry allowed tonight for Upperman. Now, obviously, the competition level launches
very different.
launches to a different stratosphere next week, but it's going to launch up for Alcoa too. And I think we were kind of talking about it today, and we'll preview the game next week. I think you could sit here and make the argument that Alcoa is about to play the best team they faced. And I think we could also sit here and make the argument, and you got to credit Adam Kane for this schedule, that it may not be It may be, but it may not be the best team that Upperman has faced so far this season. It's going to be a collision next week. Upperman will be ready for it, though, and Bronson Chaffin will try and get what, despite a state championship game run, could be the biggest win in program history if they find a way to get it done next week.
Yeah, definitely on par with the Greenville, with the Beach, the two teams that the Bees have lost to this year, but obviously had some battles with those two teams and trying to get ready for a game like this here in the postseason. And obviously, Alcoa losing in the final week of the regular season, they dropped down to the 2 seed out of their region with Anderson County winning that region title. And so Alcoa now having to win this week and tomorrow, which we expect them to do quite handily. And then we'll be in Baxter coming up next week, like you said, for the high school football game of the week. So Upperman taking care of business tonight. Final score 50-6 against Signal Mountain for a second straight season.
Yep, dominant victory. Let's talk about Stone Memorial, Jacob.
Let's do it. Stone Memorial, big win tonight, 44-21. And how about Noah Potter?
5 touchdown passes and almost had 6. Caden Page had 3 touchdown catches, almost had 4. He got tackled at the 1-yard line, and we said, will they throw it to him again anyway? And they ended up handing it off. Torrey McDowell got it in for a touchdown. Listen, first of all, Loudon showed more fight. They went back to their original starting quarterback. They threw the ball a ton more. They could not throw it the past, 6 games or so. And this kid, he's a sophomore, made some mistakes, but he made some big-time throws. They answered a touchdown by Stone early and tied the game, but Stone on a cold night up the mountain, able to handle business. And again, in that professional approach, Noah Potter was great. That's not a surprise. I think Stone is in a very interesting position, Jacob, because now we anticipate to Anderson County in this bracket, which we just talked about how loaded it was. And I think everybody's going to agree with that. But if you go outside of our area, the conversation will be, man, this bracket is so loaded. Greenville, Alcoa, Anderson County, Upperman. I don't think people put Stone in that group, and maybe they should, and we're going to figure out if they should next week. Now, the reality of the situation is, by no fault of their own, have not really faced that top competition in this state besides Upperman, and it was not a good game, right? It was not a good result for them. But we saw Anderson County last year overlook Macon County, and I don't hate the position Stone gets to be in on the road because, listen, we can compare to the cows come home and Mr. Football and all that stuff. Noah Potter is playing the quarterback position at an elite level. Forget about comparisons to anybody else. And he's got real weapons. And Caden Page is a real legit weapon. And Dylan Phillips had 2 picks and a touchdown tonight. He seems like he's really back in rhythm after that dislocated elbow. Stone is in maybe the best position to do what Macon County did last year, which is come out of nowhere and surprise some teams that maybe aren't expecting it. Stone's going to have a real chance. Now, Anderson County is really good, and that environment down there is top tier. Their game day operations are awesome. Stone's going to have a real chance to go on a turf field, though, and I think surprise a lot of people around this state next week.
Obviously, Anderson County get the big win last week against Alcoa to win a region title again. Nobody expected them to do that last week, but they're able to get the job done. They're not playing till tomorrow night, so they not playing tonight, playing tomorrow night, and we'll play Volunteer coming up tomorrow night. And it's interesting, too. All these Region 4, except for Macon County, all these Region 4 teams, they're going to get that extra day. They're going to be able to watch a lot of their opponents. White County is going to get to watch Greenville. Stone Memorial is going to get to watch Anderson County. Upperman is going to get to watch Alcoa coming into that second round. Get that extra day of rest as well and get ready for next week. And we'll see if that's able to pay off for them coming up next week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it'll be interesting. Do some of these coaches go to these games? That will be interesting. I am curious. Listen, let's just be in the real world for a second. Do we really think Alcoa hasn't been watching Upperman tape this week? Maybe not the players, but those coaches are watching Upperman tape. And the Anderson County coaches are watching Stone tape. So I think the, extra day of preparation may be a little bit overstated. Like, no coach is going to say that, but they are. They understand. The rest thing is a real thing. And being able to see a team in person. Now, listen, I don't know, but it may have been possible that there were some Alcoa people in the stands tonight in Baxter. Or there were some Anderson County fans people in the stands in Crossville. So that's obviously a possibility. But I mean, I think I'd definitely rather be the team with an extra day than the team that doesn't have the extra day. There's no doubt about that. And by the way, equal opportunity here. Do I think that some of the coaching staff in Baxter was tuning into Alcoa tape this week? I think it'd be kind of silly not to, quite frankly, when you're that big of a favorite. So the chess matches are on. I think you're going to see some elite football next week. This bracket's it's so good. We talked about it, and these coaches all really know what they're doing, and there are some great football players. So, but for Stone tonight, you know, I'm sure they won't be happy because they didn't really put it away. Loudon was able to hang around. But to me, you feel that way and you win by 30. It's kind of like the conversation we're having with Tennessee Tech. Feels like they're not playing great right now, and they're 9-0. You know, Stones won 7 games in a row, and it felt like that was maybe not their strongest performance, but they won by 30 in the first round of the playoffs. You'll take that, and again, trying to do something no Crossville team's ever done, which is win 2 playoff games in the same season.
Once again, this is the Thursday Night End Zone Show presented by the Real Estate Collective. If you're tuned in on Facebook, comment along with us. Let us know what games you are watching tonight. Make sure you like the stream and you can share it as well. We're also live on the UCR YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel if you're tuned in on YouTube. You can comment along there and you can like the stream on there as well. I'm Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Big wins tonight. Stone Memorial beats Loudon 44-21. We talked about Upperman beating Signal Mountain tonight 50-6 as well. The Gordonsville Tigers, they're moving on 35-7. Took them a little bit to kind of get going in that first half, but that's more, I think, of a York Institute effect that they have on the game.
Yeah, and it was 14-7, and everyone went, whoa, and I was like, remember, that's what I said yesterday. I really viewed York more as like a 5-5 football team. You know, it wasn't obviously not the season they wanted to have, but that schedule was just unbelievable, and yet they continued every game. Showed fight. You think about that Livingston game where they could have gotten buried and they responded. The Upperman game where they opened the game with a 8-yard scoring drive. You know, last week only losing by 7 to Marion County, the defending state champs. I do think York was way better than a 1-11 record would indicate. That being said, another professional check it off the board approach for the Tigers. And, you know, talking to Goose, he said, you know, in a sea of all these huge performances, Gordonsville continues to mix the ball around. They get Kennedy a touchdown. Jay Foster's distributing the football. They get it to all their guys. They don't have anybody who goes for 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, but they got a bunch of guys that you have to respect as a defense. And then they're just – that York scheme is really hard to stop. They hold them to 7. Defensively, this Tigers team's playing as well as anybody in the class. And I simply – let's just call a spade a spade. It's not like that 4A bracket. I love the path. Love the path. I think right now, again, you know, you have to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. I don't know how you look at the eastern half of the bracket in 2A and not say these Tigers are the favorites right now at 11-0 to play for a state championship coming out of the East.
Yeah, you start to look at the bracket. Happy Valley is a 1 seed. They're 10-0. They'll play Tellico Plains coming up tomorrow
Go look
night.
at that schedule, buddy.
Yes.
It is
absolutely.
It is not strong.
Eagleton is in there at 7-3, a 1 seed. Obviously, Marion County, they beat Jackson County tonight, 49-13. We expect Gordonsville they'll play the winner of Oneida and West Green. West Green is 1-9. Oneida is 5-5. So we would expect the Tigers to move on into at least the quarterfinals, where they could face a Marion County or a possible South Green or Polk County coming up in the quarterfinals. So, like you said, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ, and you're going to have a chance, most likely, in the quarterfinals in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they are, and we talk so much about it, but I just love the balance of this Gordonsville team, because how many times do we see a team and you're like, man, if you can stop the run, you win. Okay, if you can stop the run, obviously you want to run the football and Gordonsville wants to, but they can throw the football. Okay, you're really good at stopping the pass. They'll get in the box, put 11 in the box, and run it down your throat, right? And then defensively, they have the personnel to be able to match up. They have the speed. Now, I am curious, especially against Marion County, which just has speed for days, particularly on the outside. How does that matchup work? That's maybe the one weakness I could see, but I think they'd be able to put together long, sustained drives to minimize some of that offensively. That's the only, you know, as you get deeper into the playoffs, a Marion County and East Robb, that maybe there's a, you know, they're not the fastest team in the world, but they're not slow by any stretch of the imagination.
Mhm.
I think they're so well balanced. I think they're a really bad matchup for teams, and their ability to continue to blow teams out in different ways is so impressive to me. Of course, it's my mom's alma mater, so I'm always going to be a little partial. I spent my first year covering high school sports, roaming those sidelines with Coach Marshall. Uh, so I get that, but I just think Gordonsville is as good as it gets right now in that classification.
Noah, take us through the scores one time here. I'm gonna step out and try to come
Yeah,
back in and see if
y-
it fixes
now
the
I will say
blurriness.
it's not as bad on the actual screen as it is for us, but it is bad for us. So just leave me here, and I'll do that as Jacob steps out. Let's go through the scoreboard
We'll be
here in
back.
round one. Stone Memorial 44, Loudon 21 tonight in the game of the week. Upperman rolls past Signal Mountain 50-6. Gordonsville knocks off York 35-7. Game we're going to talk about next when Jacob pops back in here, which he just did. Game we're going to talk about next, White County knocks off Hickson 20-14 in the lone single-digit game of the night, the lone game that was even remotely competitive in the final score. Oakland knocks off Cookeville 42-10, Clay County over Copper Basin 40-6, and Marion County beat Jackson County 49-13. Jacob Benson, you look clear now. I wonder how
We're
long it'll
back.
last.
I've
You're back.
no clue what happened there, but
White County with the win, bounce back
Big
win
win.
for the Warriors tonight, 20-14.
Yeah, a back and forth ball game as well. And coming into it, Hickson a little bit better than they have been in recent years. So that's a good win for White County having to go on the road. Good to see the offense get going as well. And the defense looked like it's kind of back to what it's been doing pretty much all season long these last couple of weeks, even against Stone Memorial, giving up 16 points to that Stone Memorial offense. Pretty solid. And then able to hold Hickson to 14 and get a road win as well. A gutsy road win. It's going to be really tough next week, but you're able to get back into the win column and keep your season alive at least for another week. Big win for the Warriors.
Well, you being crystal clear lasted about 20 seconds, so that was nice. But we're still good. We're alive. We'll make it work. Yeah, and the thing was, we were getting updates. Eric Money Mitchell was texting Coach Dodge and updates during the game. They got Cole Sims running the football again, and that offensive line, which it was gut check time for Sparta up front. They were able to lock back in. Now, this time of year, especially in those 2-3s. We talked about these matchups. A lot of these blowouts are 1-4 matchups. There are 2-3 matchups that get real lopsided. We had one tonight in the game of the week, but some of those 2-3s are pretty even fights. And for Sparta to bounce back the way they did, we mentioned how critical the start was. Hammered on that yesterday after going back-to-back shutout losses, and they start with a touchdown. They get a touchdown early in the game. It's like, okay, Sparta's going to be okay. And then really, it kind of reflected back to the script early in the season when they started rallying off those wins. Remember, it was tight games that they were winning. The Cookeville game, a tight game that they win because punt and play defense needed a big drive. They get a drive. Livingston the same way. They were able to pull away late against Macon County, but that was a similar style of game. And so really good to see that familiar White County team. Now, we mentioned with these 4A teams, very true with White County. The challenge gets exponentially more difficult next week. And it is not a great matchup for White County Greenville because Greenville is so big up front. That being said, you respect all, fear none. White County is going to take a long road trip. We imagine to Greenville. It's going to be to Greenville, to Burley Stadium, which is a great place to go play and put the ball down and see what happens. But I'm very glad to see, because what do we talk about? Your culture gets tested when things aren't going well. And the last 2 weeks of the regular season did not go well for Sparta. They answer the tone. They go on the road to Hickson. And Hickson, I'm sure, will be glad when an Upper Cumberland team stops coming to their house, because every year they finish in the top 2, it seems like, and every year they're sent home. Region 3, we'll see tomorrow. They have one last chance for their champ. It is... They are desperate for these Region 4 teams to somehow turn into Region 5 or for them to turn into Region 2, because it is Massacre City every time Region 4 faces off against a Region 3 team.
Loudon was the only team to do it last year to make it through from Region 3. And even a couple of years ago, Stone Memorial goes down to Hickson and their season in the postseason as well. So, yeah, it's we'll see what Red Bank and Macon County have in store tomorrow. We expect it to be a pretty good football game. Macon County's not your normal 4 seed coming out of Region 4 4A. Obviously, defending champs from a year ago, and they still got a lot of those same players.
We're talking about all these, championship contenders, and we haven't mentioned the reigning champion
Right.
who is still in the bracket. I mean, talking about how good this 4A bracket is. We have not mentioned the reigning state champion among all the group of contenders. And listen, nobody was talking about them entering the postseason last year, and then they went to Soddy Daisy and laid a whooping on the Trojans because Region 3 doesn't want the smoke. Soddy Daisy said, thank God they got into 5A because they didn't have to face a Region 4 team. And Macon County can put themselves right back. And listen, if they go down there and win lopsided, I'm not predicting that, but if they go down there and win handedly, they're in the discussion again because listen, oh boy. I don't know if people understand how fun this bracket can become in a hurry. We talked about the game of the week next week being Upperman Alcoa. If Upperman wins that game, big if, and Macon County wins their first 2, the quarterfinals.
Guess who made in the quarterfinals?
Ooh-wee. It could be Upperman.
By the way, Soddy Daisy went up to 5A and missed the playoffs this year. So
I still think they'd take that over facing Macon County again. That game went.
Maybe.
That was ugly.
Big win tonight for White County, 20-14. Let's talk about the Cookeville Cavaliers. They go on the road to Murfreesboro, one of the best teams in the state and one of the top teams in the nation, as Oakland ranked 34th in the nation according to Max Preps coming into this game. They win tonight 42-10. It was 35-3 at halftime, and the athletes definitely stand out on the field for this Oakland Patriots squad. The speed is ridiculous with this Oakland team.
Elite athletes, elite coaching, Oakland high school football. It's that simple. And, Mads and I were talking, of course, we talked about how a lot of roots down there for me in that program and it's just in that area. And I'm excited Jacob's going to get to go watch Oakland play in person. Because, listen, it's a fun team to watch. And you know what? And you say what you want, and it's amazing how they just magically get players in there every year. We understand that. But Kevin Creasy's not going to run it up. They could win a lot of games 80-0. They don't do that. I have very little respect for the adults that do that. And it happens a lot, unfortunately. They don't do that. They didn't do that tonight. And Cookeville went and fought, but entirely. And listen, with the reality in mind of what Coach Hennigan, who did a great job this season, keeping that team together, has said that they want to be in that discussion. Okay, the reality is right now, Cookeville is not yet in that discussion. And you saw tonight that gap. And I think of it back when Tennessee, and this is obviously apples to oranges, but when Tennessee was trying to rebuild in that first year under Coach Heupel, where they were playing good football, but then they play Georgia or play Alabama. And it was like, oh, they have a lot more dudes. And Tennessee has had to try to make up that gap, and they did for a minute. Now they've stopped because they don't want to invest in a safety, but I'm not going to start ranting about that, or a defensive coordinator with half a brain. So that is the talent gap. And just they're on a bunch of 4 and 5 stars walking around like they are around Murfreesboro, especially around that high school at Oakland. So I think that was just the big difference tonight. It was just more dudes, and sometimes it's that simple.
It's 35-3 at halftime. Gavin Lentz gets the only score for the Cavaliers in the first half. 40-yard field goal. You got to go back and watch it. It was good from at least 55. Just an absolute bomb from Gavin Lentz, who also completed a pass on a fake punt that converted a first down. He was making a couple of catches. Versatile is Gavin Lentz. But for the Cavaliers, tell you what, it was 35-3 at halftime. It's running clock territory, and obviously you're all sitting there, okay, well, Oakland's moving on to the second round, and I think we were all thinking that no matter what, but the Cavaliers, they didn't care. They came out with their hair on fire in the second half, albeit in running clock territory, marched right down the field after a great kickoff return from Taylor Fitz, able to find Michael Betzweishen in the end zone to get the score and get a touchdown. And listen, not a lot of teams have done that against this Oakland defense this year, actually go up against their ones on defense and score touchdowns. The Cavaliers were able to get 10 points against him. Now, defensively, it was a little bit different story. They did outscore them 7-0 in the third quarter, and then it was back to a running clock in the fourth.
Yeah, and now the attention turns towards what was a very impressive freshman class that didn't get to play a ton. No. Some of them started to peek into the lineup. What will they do as sophomores next year? And we now know the schedule is going to be insane. Now, a huge, Siegel, some of the games they dropped this year, they'll be looking to get back in a hurry, but still going to have FRA on there, still going to have Maryville on there, tough games. And then, of course, within the region. But, and again, you saw tonight, and I'm not sure what ended up happening with Green Hill. I'm actually going to check that.
They won. They won pretty handily, 42-14.
For a minute, it was actually pretty tight I think it was actually 14-14 between them and Smyrna for a while. So
Gallatin and Blackman were tied at 3. Blackman ended up winning at 24-9.
But the reality is there is a noticeable gap right now. And yes, the pod system changes it after the first round, but Region 3 has dominated Region 4 and 6A. Yep. And so that Murfreesboro region's in control, and it'll be on teams like Cookeville and this young class to try and change some of that. Now, the gap to Oakland is wide and vast, but you got to make up the gap to Riverdale, Blackman, and Smyrna and Rockville and those schools first. And so we'll see if Cookeville and Green Hill and really, they're rivals in region. They got to figure out a way as a region to compete with that region if you want to have any success in the postseason.
Yep. Again, a big tip of the cap to Coach Hennigan and the seniors for the Cavaliers. 1 win going into the bye and able to rattle off 3 wins in a row to make the playoffs, and then just give yourself a chance in the playoffs, and still playing hard even throughout the game tonight against Oakland. They fall tonight 42-10.
Coach Dodgen said, "Great night of football, #Wendy's." I have not laughed as hard on a broadcast in my life. The story will never see the light of day, but we're talking about how cold it was, and I was reminded of how I was at the Grand Canyon with Coach Dodgen in White County a couple of years ago. It was very cold, and he was in shorts. And then we had what we called the Wendy's incident, which is one of my favorite stories of all time. And I've not laughed as hard on commentary ever. I actually lost it. Our game was a blowout, and #Wendy's indeed, Coach. I'll tell you after, Jacob. It's good.
So Cookeville falls tonight 42-10. The team that first punched the ticket to the second round, the Clay County Bulldogs, they moved on to the second round in the 1A playoffs, taking care of business against Copper Basin tonight 40-6. And another week where they're moving on and just taking care of business.
Another week where Bruce Lamb can't call us because we all picked them. And by the way, there's been a couple of comments about us going chalk with the picks. We should change. We need to change to keep it interesting. Listen, all right, here's a rule of thumb. And if you haven't understood this, and I'm gonna give free advice. All right. Now you can take it for what it's worth. If you have to have clickbait, you're not that good. And that's kind of the mantra we live by here. We don't believe in it. We just do what we do. And me changing a pick, or Jacob or Goose changing a pick to keep it interesting, would be the definition of just trying to get some clickbait. We don't do that. Listen, we're going to be wrong, and that's when people come for us. But most of the time, the picks go pretty chalky because most of the time, high school sports go pretty chalky. So I don't really understand that one at all. But we definitely went chalk on Clay County.
And we like to be right.
It's actually the most important thing in the world to me.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not kidding about that. You can ask Jacob. He'll tell you. It's all I really care about. But Clay County rolls again. They have not played with their food in the least. They have another opportunity to roll. And you want to see them continue here, Jacob, because the 1A bracket on the East is dominated by one team, and it's South Pitt. And they are looming in the third round, and you want to be playing your absolute best football. And right now, Clay County, I feel like, is playing their absolute best football. Got to do that next week as well to feel like you're a freight train rolling against South Pitt coming up in a couple of weeks in the quarterfinals.
They're not going to have the easiest game in the world coming up in the second round. They'll play the winner of Midway, who's 7-3, and Cosby, who is 6-4. So they're going to have to obviously play well to win in that second round. And then, like you said, they're on a crash course with South Pitt in that quarterfinal round, and see what you can do against a very good South Pittsburgh squad yet again coming into this season.
Jacob, come on. Jacob.
What?
Come on. That was a little disingenuous. It's going to be pretty easy. Okay.
I haven't looked.
Listen, if you're a Bulldog player, turn your ears off. Mute this. Come on. That being said, Reese Adams, you sent the news.
Yeah.
All-time leading tackler in Clay County history, and that is an illustrious history. There have been some great defensive players. Reese Adams is having a heck of a season there in Salina. Congratulations to him. That is no small feat at all.
Absolutely. So Clay County, big win tonight against Copper Basin, 40-6. Jackson County sees their season come to a close. They fall to Marion County tonight, the defending 2A champions, 49-13. Fairly close in the first half, 28-13 at halftime. Gets away from them in the second half. And we said it, watch out for those Jackson County Blue Devils. Seems like they found something here late in the season, but it comes to an end here in round one of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that more than anything else is reports of Marion County's death were greatly exaggerated. And this is a dangerous football team. They are as athletic as any team. That when you talk about team speed, that's why I think the potential matchup with them in Gordonsville is so interesting, because there is some contrasting styles there. But, Jackson County with great fight. This is a team that I think we had him this year in this position. I think next year especially has the potential to take a big jump, because they checked off a few more boxes this year, right? They got a couple more wins. They got into the playoffs. They, felt that environment going on the road. I think that there is great value in playing the best teams in your classification, especially for a young football team, to say, okay, it's easy to say when we're playing well that we feel like, but that's what we got to get to. That is what we've got to become. And so I look at a team like Jackson County with Sean Loftus there now as the longest tenured coach in the Upper Cumberland. And I see a team that I think has the potential to really have a breakout next year in this 2A classification, because now they've seen it. They've shown that they certainly are not a pushover this year by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to get another year to get bigger, stronger, faster. I really like what's happening right now in Gainsboro.
Yeah, obviously they see Gordonsville in the region now, and obviously go on the road to Marion County. So like you said, they've been able to see what you got to get to. Winning record for the first time since 2016. Things are definitely trending in the right direction for this Jackson County Blue Devils squad. I'm excited to see what they can do coming up next season. So that brings us, those are all the games across the Upper Cumberland tonight. We'll go through them once more, and then we'll let you know about the games coming up tomorrow as well. Still Memorial beats Loudon 44-21. Upperman over Signal Mountain 50-6. Gordonsville tops York Institute tonight 35-7. White County over Hickson in a close one 20-14. Oakland beats Cookeville 42-10. Clay County over Copper Basin 40-6. And Marion County beats Jackson County 49-13. Coming up tomorrow, we got one broadcast game that'll be Macon County at Red Bank, and that one we expect to be a really good football game. Going to be a 6 o'clock Central Time start time, with it being on the Eastern Time Zone. We're also going to be paying attention to Smith County and Bledsoe County. Everyone talking about the Pixby and Chalk. Well, these are two games where we differ at least a little bit on these two games, and we'll see what those ones look like coming up tomorrow night, and then RBS playing South Pittsburgh tomorrow night as well. So again, we'll have broadcast coverage of Macon County Red Bank tomorrow at 6 o'clock Central Time, the only broadcast game we'll have, but we'll be paying close attention to that Smith County Bledsoe County game coming up tomorrow night as well.
Going to be a very great night of football. A huge shout out to Jacob Vinson. He always does. He's making my life exponentially easier tomorrow, which I greatly appreciate, because I've got to take a trip. And literally every time I say where I'm going, you would think that I say I'm going to the seventh layer of Hades. People lose their mind. They're like, oh, that place stinks. I'm going to Eastern Illinois, okay? And my favorite one is some of the college guys are like, oh, the press box is terrible. I'm like, listen, fellas. Okay, it's gonna be fun.
We broadcast from bleachers, table, like I mean,
and I'm gonna be on the sideline.
Get into a booth sometimes.
I'm gonna be amongst people my size. It's crazy. I can't wait.
I promise there will be people bigger. Promise.
There's some large.
They're massive
beings,
down there
at Tech, but they get a big one in OVC Big South play at Eastern Illinois. I'll be there for that. So, and then we've got Tech basketball next week starting.
Yeah, sure do.
Let's go, baby. This is what we do, man. It's November. Let's go.
That's right.
Come on.
We got more basketball coverage coming to the site, as well as basketball in high school getting started in a little less than a couple of weeks now. About a full week of practice coming up next week, and then they come up, and that's right. We'll have the first UC top 5 for basketball, boys and girls.
Hey,
coming up.
Should we give a teaser?
Just a little bit.
Should we give a teaser? The number 1 boys team in the UC top 5.
Bet you can't guess.
Who's it going to be? It's Upperman. Ty Cobb.
It's going to be. It's going to be the Upperman.
The number 1 girls team in the Upper Cumberland. You have to wait and see. A little more intrigue on that one. You have to wait until next week to find out. We know who it's going to be, I think. Yeah,
I think so.
We can outvote Goose, so I know who we're going to vote for.
I think he'll agree with this.
I mean, the top 4 is freaking awesome. We know what the top 4 is going to be for sure. So, see, this is. By the way, you don't have to do clickbait if you can just set the stage. You have to check it out next week. We're going to unveil the top 5.
Thank you so much for tuning in for the Thursday Night End Zone Show presented by the Real Estate Collective. Hope you tune in with us tomorrow for Macon County and Red Bank. Should be a heck of a football game coming up at 6 o'clock Central Time tomorrow on the main UCR Facebook page and YouTube channel. And then make sure you tune in at noon on Saturday as Tennessee Tech goes to Eastern Illinois on 106.1 The Eagle. Noah will be on the sideline for that one with Dylan Vazano and company for the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles. And then we got basketball, more football coming up next week and second round of the playoffs as well. It's a busy time of year, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Thursday Night End Zone Show presented by the Real Estate Collective. That's Noah McKay. I'm Jacob Vincent saying so long, and we'll talk